So this is going to be a bit of an emotional whirlwind of a video. It's hard to know how to approach such a sensitive topic, but I've been wanting to talk about it for a really long time. And it's really important to me to be able to reach other survivors of sexual assault and also those who haven't been affected by it personally, just because I feel as though I have a little bit to contribute to the conversation, and I really would love to help other survivors. But in order to do that, I feel as though I have to tell my story and my experience for them to understand exactly what I went through, and for me to be able to better explain how I recovered, I have to tell what happened to me. So I would love to talk more about this after I share my experience, how I reconnected with my body. I would love to incorporate my art into this. I have a lot of art projects in mind, and none would be, really graphic or anything like that. They would always come with a trigger warning, of course, but I feel as though art can say things that words can't sometimes, and I would love to reach people with that. I would love to talk about a lot of things. Confronting a rapist, speaking out about being raped, and telling your loved ones that it happened to you if you aren't able to do so, because I didn't tell anyone for 2 years, so I know what it's like to stay in that awful, awful silence. And if I could help one other survivor feel as though they don't have to stay silent anymore, that would mean the absolute world to me. So, I guess I have to start from the beginning. September 2012, I was a freshman in college. I had just turned 18 the day that I moved in, and I was really excited to make friends that friends with people that I normally wouldn't be, and to meet all kinds of different people. So I guess I just was more open to new friendships than I was normally, which I think is typical of any freshman in college. So I had Latin class every day, and that was where I met my rapist. He first introduced himself as a senior to the class, which was weird because I found out when I went to his room to study about 2 weeks later. I really don't know the exact date. I honestly think I've blocked it out, but we had a quiz and I was really bad at Latin and so I needed help, and I went to his dorm, and it was a freshman dorm, and it was like, that's really weird. He said he was a senior, and so I asked him about it, and he basically said that he did it for just a joke or whatever, but it's like, that should have been a sign of something was wrong with him. So in order to explain, I guess, why I went there, I would have to also just put out that the possibility of sex was just not even in my realm of thought. I'm a really generally trusting person, and I think I still have managed to retain that, but I was also very naive. And that definitely was a contributing factor in why I went there, I guess. But to me, it was just for studying. So I also feel as though I have to explain him a bit. He was very loud, obnoxious, just a really big jerk, honestly. He was almost sociopathic in the way that he talked about other people, with just almost no regard for their feelings, and the way he talked about people was just bizarre to me. But it was also interesting because I think just people are fascinating in general. So I went along with it, and I didn't really think anything of it. So I pulled out my flashcards because I was so bad at Latin. And he said, I can't remember exactly how he put it, but he said, for every answer that he got wrong, I would have to kiss him. And if you think about it, that's really weird because he made it like the penalty of it. So he knew that I didn't want to kiss him. And it was just, I remember my face felt really hot and I could tell I was like flushed, and it was like, oh, this just took a total turn that I was not prepared for. And after a little convincing, I reluctantly said yes. I didn't really think like it would go anywhere beyond that. I was definitely clearly uncomfortable with it, but I said okay. So that happened, and then he, this is where it's like starts to get a little graphic, and I don't really know what to include and what not to, but so things were progressing, and he never asked if anything else was okay, and I completely froze. I panicked. Flight or fight, I just froze. Didn't know what to do. I basically just let it happen to me. So, and I remember thinking like I hadn't shaved my legs in a couple of days, and like that I hoped that that would deter him. And just like little things like that like stick with me so vividly, and it was clear to a normal human being that I was not a willing participant, because as soon as things started to progress, I squeezed my eyes shut as tight as they would go and didn't move, basically. And that would be an indication to a normal person that your partner is not willing. But he never asked for consent. He never checked and asked if I was okay, anything like that. So things were progressing, and I felt him lean over me, so I opened my eyes and I saw him reach into his bedside table for a condom. And the moment I saw that, it was so awful, because I realized that what was about to happen to me. He started to rape me, and once that happened, flight kicked in, and so I started to sit up and try to get away, but he reached down and pulled both my arms above my head and held my wrists down. And that touch to me said so much. It said, you can't leave. It said, I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, and this is gonna happen. I didn't know what to do. So I just froze and basically accepted it, in however awful that sounds, because I didn't know what would happen if I were to resist. I didn't know if he would get violent. I just panicked, and all rational thought, to scream out or to call 911. All of those thoughts just left my head, and I just thought, I have to get through this. So I'm going to close my eyes and focus on these little, when you close your eyes real tight and you see patterns and sort of like a galaxy. And so I was just so strongly focusing on that that is all of my visual memory for while it was happening to me. It was kind of like an out-of-body experience. And the only other time I opened my eyes was when I thought he was done. And he was like leaning in my ear. And I just said, "You little fucker," just out of nowhere. And he laughed and continued. And that was really awful. It just came out of my mouth. I don't even know from where, but I like wasn't saying it in a joking way. Like, it was clear that it wasn't a joke, but he laughed it off and continued. So after it was over, I just needed to get out of there as fast as I could. I threw on all my clothes. I remember I couldn't find one of my socks, and it was raining, and I only had a short walk back to my dorm, but that walk was so awful. Sorry, this part, I've filmed this like 3 times, because my camera keeps getting messed up, but, this was the hardest part for me, because on that walk that I realized I was never going to be the same. And that there was something in my mind that would never leave. And so I on that walk, I decided that I wasn't going to tell anyone what had happened to me, because I didn't want to hurt my loved ones by telling them this awful thing, and I didn't want them to panic, and I knew that I couldn't report it. I didn't have the strength to, because I could barely even admit what had happened to myself. So I got up to my room and went straight for the shower and was just scrubbing filth off that wasn't even there. And I was so scared to close my eyes, because I was afraid that he would be behind me somehow. So I was in there for a long time, just scrubbing my skin red. And after that, I really withdrew from everyone and from myself. I spent a lot of time just trying to distract myself. At first it was with homework, then that became too overwhelming because I was missing class, because I had class with him and other classes with him too. We were in the same major, and it was really awful. So I ended up going home, and even at home I was trying to distract myself. At home I wasn't the same. And I became more and more depressed, more and more anxious. I already had anxiety, and it just got so much worse. I already had depression, it got so much worse. I couldn't tell anyone for so long, and that feeling of isolation and loneliness is something you really can't describe. And that is really why I want to help people who feel that way, and tell them that it's not their fault. It's not your fault. No matter what you were wearing, no matter what the situation, it wasn't your fault. And I know you've heard that in Good Will Hunting and in so many things. It's such a stereotypical sentence, but it's so true. You can't blame yourself for anything. No part of the situation was your fault, because no one deserves to be violated. No one deserves to feel like a piece of meat and to feel as though they can't decide who gets to touch them. It's not fair, no matter what the circumstance. I didn't deserve it just because I didn't shout out. You know, it's just so hard to convey my sincerity through a camera, but I really want other survivors to know that I'm there for them. Even though every other person's experience is different, I think the core feeling of worthlessness is pretty similar, and I just want you to know that you're worth it. No matter where you come from and who you are, no one has the right to touch you without your consent. And no one has the right to trigger you and make you upset and in any way trivialize your experience. And it's really hard to stand up for yourself in situations like that, and I'm working on it. I'm working on calling out people for making rape jokes, and it's an everyday healing. It's an everyday struggle, and it's an everyday battle with yourself and with staying close to your body, which can feel really foreign to you at sometimes. So, thank you so much for listening to my story, and I'm so sorry if you can relate to it in any way. And I'm here for you. You can message me or anything like that. But please know that you're not alone. No matter how lonely you feel, there are people who really understand, and who can help you. There are a lot of people who can help you, and a lot of people who love you. So thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you have learned a little bit about me from this, learned a little bit about how sexual assault can affect someone if you haven't been affected by it personally, and if you have, know that I'm here for you. So thanks. Bye.